You know that moment, right when your feet hit the floor in the morning. That split second where you're not totally awake yet. And then your body goes, oh yes, you are. The ankles, the knees, maybe the hips, sometimes the hands, if you slept funny. And you just sit there on the edge of the bed, a little longer than you used to, waiting for everything to loosen up before you actually trust yourself to stand. You get up. You always do. But there was a time when that whole thing just didn't exist, when getting out of bed was just getting out of bed. Not this little negotiation with your own body every single morning. I'm Dr. Megan Foster, and I've spent close to 20 years working with people over 60 on exactly this stuff. Not the big dramatic health overhauls, but the quiet, everyday frustrations that nobody really talks about. And morning stiffness, that is hands down one of the most common things I hear about, and also one of the most misunderstood. Most people just chalk it up to age, something to push through, deal with, accept. But here's what the research actually shows. A big chunk of that morning stiffness is being driven by inflammatory compounds your body is literally producing overnight. And certain foods can interrupt that process directly, not eventually, not in some vague long-term way. We're talking within hours of eating them. So today we're going through 8 specific foods, and I'm not just going to tell you what they are. I'm going to tell you exactly what they're doing inside your joints and your tissues, because that's what actually gets people to stick with something. When you understand why it works, it stops being just another health tip. It becomes something you actually believe in. All right, let's get into it. Number 1, tart cherries. And I don't mean the sweet ones you'd throw in a pie. I'm talking about the deep red, almost sour Montmorency variety. These are some of the most researched foods out there for overnight inflammation. And the reason is pretty specific. Tart cherries are one of the only foods that pack a meaningful amount of melatonin, and these plant compounds called anthocyanins. These directly dial down the inflammatory messengers your body ramps up while you sleep. A study out of the European Journal of Nutrition followed adults with inflammatory joint conditions. The ones who drank tart cherry juice twice a day for 3 weeks? Significantly less morning stiffness, lower inflammation markers in their blood. What I love about this one is the timing. The melatonin works with your body's overnight chemistry, not against it. 2 tablespoons of tart cherry concentrate in a little water before bed, or about 8 ounces of unsweetened tart cherry juice, not the cocktail stuff, not sweetened. That's the version that actually does something. Give it 2 weeks before you write it off. Number 2, ginger. Now look, I know you've heard about ginger, but I want to walk you through the part most people skip, because the mechanism here is genuinely impressive. Ginger has compounds called gingerols and sugarols, especially sugarols, which show up when ginger is dried or cooked, and these things inhibit the same enzyme that prescription anti-inflammatory drugs target. It's called KOX2, and it's one of the main drivers of joint inflammation. A clinical trial published in Arthritis and Rheumatism found that people who took concentrated ginger extract had meaningful reductions in knee pain and stiffness versus placebo. About 63% of the ginger group said they felt a noticeable difference. That's more than 6 out of 10 people. Fresh ginger in hot water every morning, roughly a 1-inch piece, sliced thin. Or half a teaspoon of dried ginger stirred into your oatmeal or yogurt. And here's something most people don't realise. The dried form actually has more of the active sugars, so don't sleep on the dried version. Number 3, sardines. Okay. Just stay with me here for a second. I totally get that sardines have kind of a reputation, but honestly, they're one of the most complete anti-inflammatory foods we've got. And for joints specifically, the way they work is really direct. The omega-3s in sardines, EPA and DHA, get into joint tissues and convert into compounds called resolvins and protectins. And these are literally resolution molecules. They don't just slow inflammation down, they actually signal your body to start resolving it. On top of that, sardines are one of the very few food sources of something called spermidine, which supports the renewal of cartilage cells in your joints. Research from the Annals of the Rheumatic Diseases found that people with the highest omega-3 intake had measurably thicker cartilage in their weight-bearing joints. 3 to 4 ounces, 2 or 3 times a week, packed in water or olive oil, drained, eaten plain, or on a slice of whole grain toast with a little lemon squeeze. That's literally it. Number 4, pineapple. Here's one that tends to catch people off guard. Fresh pineapple, not canned, not from concentrate, contains an enzyme called bromelain. And bromelain is one of the most well-studied natural anti-inflammatory agents we have. It actually breaks down certain inflammatory proteins right in the bloodstream, and it has a real affinity for the kind of inflammation that builds up in connective tissue. Now here's the part most people miss. Bromelain is most concentrated in the core of the pineapple, that tough, fibrous center you usually just toss. So if you're eating or juicing pineapple, try to work in some of that core. A review in Biomedical Reports found bromelain effective enough at reducing joint inflammation that it's now being studied as add-on therapy alongside standard treatments. Half a cup of fresh pineapple in the morning, core included as much as you can handle, that gives you a real therapeutic dose. This is one where people come back to me and say, I genuinely can't believe that worked. Number 5, turmeric. Okay, so turmeric is everywhere right now, and I'll be real with you. Most people are using it in a way that makes it basically pointless. Curcumin, the active compound in turmeric, is notoriously hard for your body to absorb on its own, but add just a little bit of black pepper, even 1/8 of a teaspoon, and absorption jumps by up to 2,000%. Not a typo. The piperine in black pepper basically opens a door that curcumin cannot get through alone. And once it's absorbed, curcumin does something really impressive. It blocks NF-κB, one of the main inflammatory signaling pathways in the body, while also reducing oxidative damage to joint tissues. A meta-analysis in the Journal of Medicinal Food found curcumin produced improvements in joint pain and stiffness comparable to ibuprofen in some groups, without the stomach issues. Half a teaspoon of turmeric, a small pinch of black pepper, a little healthy fat, olive oil or coconut oil, and something warm to mix it all into. That combo is what makes it actually work. Turmeric, black pepper, and fat. Always together, don't skip any of those. If you're getting value out of this, the real mechanisms, the actual research, make sure you're following along for more. There's a whole community here of people doing exactly what you're doing right now, taking this seriously, paying attention to what their body needs, and deciding to stay strong. All right, let's keep going. Number 6, walnuts. Here's what sets walnuts apart from basically every other nut. They're the only one with a significant amount of ALA. That's a plant-based omega-3 that your body can partially convert into EPA and DHA. Same anti-inflammatory fatty acids we just talked about with the sardines. But walnuts also have this unique polyphenol called L-glutamine, and your gut bacteria convert that into something called urolithin A. Recent research shows urolithin A supports mitochondrial function in muscle and joint cells, which basically means it helps those cells maintain their own energy and repair systems. A study from the journal Nutrients found that people who ate walnuts regularly had lower levels of C-reactive protein. That's one of the key blood markers for systemic inflammation. A small handful, about 7 whole walnuts, is your target dose. And eat them at night if you can. There's solid evidence that the ALA conversion is more efficient when your body is already in its overnight repair mode. Number 7, bone broth. When it's made right, bone broth is one of the most direct sources of the actual building blocks your joint tissue needs to function. The collagen that breaks down during a long simmer produces specific peptides, hydroxyproline and hydroxylysine. And research suggests these get absorbed intact and actually travel to joint cartilage. A study in the International Journal of Medical Sciences found that people who took collagen peptides for 90 days had significant improvements in joint comfort and mobility, and some people started noticing it in the first few weeks. But here's the thing, It's got to be real bone broth, not just regular stock. Real bone broth gets thick and almost gelatinous when it cools in the fridge. If it's still watery, it hasn't broken down enough collagen to do anything for you. 1 to 2 cups a day, drink it warm, or use it as a base for soups and grains. The glycine in bone broth also supports sleep quality, which brings us right back to reducing overnight inflammation. It works on multiple levels at once. Number 8, extra virgin olive oil. I saved this one for last, and I want you to hear me on this, because I genuinely think it's the single most powerful daily anti-inflammatory food we have, and the most underrated. Most people just think of it as a cooking fat, but extra virgin olive oil contains a compound called oleocanthal. It works almost identically to ibuprofen in the body. Same mechanism, same inflammatory pathways, same QX1 and QX2 inhibition. The difference is it's gentler, it's cumulative, and it comes with a whole cascade of heart and brain benefits on top. And you can actually feel it. There's a slight peppery burn at the back of your throat when you eat a good extra virgin olive oil. That's the oleocanthal. If you don't feel it, the oil is old, over-processed, or it's not actually extra virgin. Researchers estimate that 4 tablespoons of high-quality extra virgin olive oil a day produces an effect roughly equivalent to 10% of an adult ibuprofen dose. And over time, that daily action on inflammatory pathways is what actually shifts your baseline, not a one-and-done thing. A daily habit. Drizzle it on everything. Finish your dishes with it after cooking rather than just using it for heat. Oleocanthal breaks down at high temperatures. Before we wrap up, I want to give you a few simple morning strategies, because knowing the foods is only half the battle. Start your morning with tart cherry concentrate in a small glass of water. Before anything else, even before your coffee, takes 30 seconds, and it gets that overnight inflammation cycle moving in the right direction before your day even starts. Pair your ginger or turmeric with something that has healthy fat in it. A little olive oil in warm water with turmeric and black pepper is a simple morning tonic that covers 3 of the foods on this list in one shot. I've seen this one habit make a noticeable dent in morning stiffness within the first week. Eat your walnuts at night, not in the morning. Small timing shift, but it matters. The overnight ALA conversion is a real advantage when your body is already in repair mode. And then, just start with 1. Seriously, just 1. Don't try to add all 8 foods tomorrow morning and then burn out when it doesn't stick. Pick the one that felt most doable to you, the one you could actually see yourself doing tomorrow. Then layer the next one on once that first one feels natural. That's how habits actually work. That's how the body actually changes. Not all at once, but steadily. Your body is still responding to what you put in it. I've seen this again and again, working with people in their 60s, 70s, 80s. The body does not stop wanting to repair itself. It just needs the right materials to do it. These 8 foods give your joints exactly what they need to do less damage overnight and start rebuilding during the day. The version of you tomorrow morning can already be different from the version of you this morning. I want to hear from you. Which one of these are you most excited to try? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one, and I genuinely love knowing what's landing. See you in the next one.